Joel Chandler Harris, who sometimes wrote under the pen name of his creation, Uncle Remus, was a white journalist from Georgia, an African-American sympathizer who believed that, as a writer, he was following in the footsteps of Harriet Beecher Stowe. Uncle Remus, the fictional black storyteller for which Harris became famous, was said to be an amalgamation of several slave storytellers the journalist had met while working in the early 1860s as a printing compositor. Uncle Remus's stories of the wily trickster Brer Rabbit, as well as his abundant knowledge of old plantation lore, became exceedingly popular in the 1870s. Not only were Harris's stories a hit with the general public, but folklorists from around the world identified Harris's work as a treasure trove of black storytelling, which, even today, remains one of the largest collections of its kind. What's more, Harris's penchant for telling his stories in a gritty black dialect made him, along with admirer Mark Twain, a trailblazer in the field of first-person vernacular narrative. Both men used the form not only to capture the voice of what might be deemed the lower class, but the voice of people who were then still often considered non-people. As such, Harris's and Twain's stories not only offered a window into rag-bag, uncivilized society, but into a world of genuine struggle, pain, fierceness, and strength.
Well, so I certainly does. I like this some kind of seem like I have. I don't know if it's worry, trouble, or something. I like this trouble. Trouble I had all my days.
At first blush, Uncle Remus's tales are pure entertainment, comedy, novelty, kid stuff. But it's precisely because Uncle Remus's stories were a big draw for children that Harris strove to make the allegorical nature of his writing as clear as possible. Here are big, arrogant, strong, muckety-muck animals like bears and foxes and oxen getting their butts kicked by smaller, scrappier underdogs, like rabbits. And here is a world that, at its best, is a haven for critters of all sizes, shapes, and colors. It should be noted that these stories were intended for predominantly white audiences, touched upon by the conceit that Remus is telling his tales to a little white boy waiting to be initiated into the world of the Old South.
Won't have trouble, son, everywhere you go. Where they talk about trouble out.
The majority of Uncle Remus's tales stem from African folklore traditions, carried and embroidered anew by slaves living in the southern United States. Other stories are rooted in Native American folklore, as well as European lore that parallels the stories of the Bible. The story of Brer Rabbit's encounter with a baby made of tar is one of Uncle Remus's most well-known. In it, Brer Rabbit picks a fight with the quiet, inanimate decoy, only to find that the more he kicks and punches, the more entangled he becomes in the tar.
Wish my baby would stop her evil ways. Seemed like trouble.
Many of these tales followed the antics of a community of country folk animals, though later, Harris would incorporate Uncle Remus himself and other black characters into the stories.
Well, tell me, baby, honey, what's the matter now? Baby, tell me what's the matter now. Is you gonna quit your...
Sadly, Harris, as a man of his time, remains his own worst enemy. Today, the Uncle Remus stories are seen as shocking and patently racist.
Had it all my days. Seemed like trouble gonna carry me to my grave.
Scholars have pointed to Harris himself as operating in a kind of blackface, a quote, literary minstrel show. As Uncle Remus, Harris paints African Americans as pandering, mawkishly sweet, ignorant, and fond of the N-word.
I was walking down the street, just couldn't keep from crying. Couldn't keep from crying. The girl I love, she sure was on my mind.
The controversy is the reason why many black scholars, including Julius Lester, have rewritten some of the Uncle Remus tales, pulling out offensive language and ornamentation so that audiences might understand the merits of Harris's original work.
Police arrest me, put me in jail. I didn't have nobody to come and go my bail. Lord, you talk about trouble, I've had it all my days. Trouble, had it all my days. Seemed like trouble gonna carry me to my grave.
However you slice it, the tales of Uncle Remus remain one of the most important treasuries of not only black folklore, but American folklore. Yes, Uncle Remus is a product of a racist culture, but his stories are something much more vital, narratives that carry much more depth and meaning than we often care to note. And so the argument perhaps shouldn't be whether or not Uncle Remus, as an undoubtedly uncomfortable caricature, taints African American culture today, but whether or not the significance of his message, his history, begs us to come to terms with their otherwise disappointing vehicle.